Hey everyone, my name is Abhishek and today we are going to create this bouncing text animation in After Effects. All this without using any third-party plugin. So let's begin. Alright, so right now I'm in After Effects and we will begin by creating a new composition. So let's call this one main. Width and height will be 1920 by 1080, frame rate 30 fps and duration you can pick 10 seconds. Just click on OK. Now we are going to first type our text. So in order to do that, let's select the text tool and I'm using this Montserrat extra bold font, but you can use any font you want. So let's just click. Now you can type whatever you want. I'm going to type dream. Now let's quickly align this to the center. So let's select the text and using the align panel, I'm going to align it over here. Now in case you are not able to see the align panel, then you can go to Windows and from here you can enable it. Now let's make its anchor point in the center. So select the layer, hold on the control key and double click on this pan anchor tool. Now the anchor point is in the center. Once you are done with your text, now we are going to separate the text into individual characters. So for that we can just select this layer, press Ctrl D. Now I'm going to just type D over here. Let's select this D and press Ctrl D. Now let's type R. So in the same way you can just duplicate it and just replace it with all the characters that you have in your Word. Something like that. So now we have done all the characters. Now I'm going to select the base character and I'm going to apply a fill effect so that we can see what we are doing. Let's apply it over here. Now we can select individual letters. So let's select this D and I'm going to just align it where we have the D in the main character somewhere around here. Let's select the R and let's align it something like that. Just align all the letters. Here you go. Now we have aligned all the characters. Now we are done with this, so we don't need this base layer, so we can probably delete this one. Now I also need a dot over here, so for that I'm going to select the ellipse tool. Now you can just simply click and hold on the shift key so that it creates a circle, something like that. Now just create a small circle, something like this. Now for color you can pick whatever you want. I'm going to leave it to red for now. Let's select this and let's zoom in and we are going to just place it over here. Let's press S and I'm going to just scale this down. Again, move its anchor point to the center. So select this layer, hold down Control key and double click on this. Now the anchor point is in the center, so we can probably play around with its scale. So let's scale this down, something like that. So let's align it where we want it. So I think, yeah, this is looking fine for me. So once you're done with this, we are ready to select all the layers and let's add a keyframe for position. So let's press P. Now let's move our indicator to somewhere far away. Let's add keyframe because this is going to be our final position and we are going to make use of it. Now I'm going to add a rotation keyframe for these as well. So let's select all the layers, press R. Let's add a keyframe for rotation. Let's press U to select all the keyframes. Now let's move them to where we have these positions here. Now in the beginning, let's go back. Now I'm going to select all these characters and I'm going to just place them randomly. Let's place them something like this. So I think this is looking fine. Now I'm going to also tweak their rotation. So let's select this D and I'm going to just rotate it something like that. Let's select this R and I'm going to just rotate it something like this. Let's select this A. Just do it randomly because we want a little bit of variation in our animation. Let's select this M and I'm going to just place it over here. Let's rotate it a little bit. Let's rotate it like this. So here you can see we have all the characters and they are aligned perfectly. So we can select this dot which we have just created. So I'm going to just move it to the center, something like that. You can use the align panel if you want, somewhere around here. Now I want this little bit bigger, so I'm going to just increase its scale to something like, let's say 100 for now. Yeah, let's set this to 100. Perfect. So now we are ready to do the animation. Now let's select all the layers, press U to hide everything. We are only going to focus on this ball. So let's select this, press P for position and I'm going to add a keyframe over here. Now I'm going to zoom in and we are going to just animate this ball for now. So let's figure out how we are going to animate it. So first I want my ball to bounce from R, then it goes to D, then I want it to go to E, A and at last after M we want this back to its original position. So for that we are going to animate its position. So let's add a keyframe over here. Now let's move somewhere around 4 seconds and I want this ball to move a little bit down before it shoots up because we want to add some anticipation to our animation. So after 4 frames, let's make this a little bit more below, somewhere around here. Now after this, let's move to somewhere around, let's say 16 frames and I want this ball to go somewhere around here to the R and now we can probably zoom out a little bit. Now let's move a little bit ahead somewhere around 21 or 22 frames, and I want this go back to D, something like that. Now after it has reached D, I want it to go to E. Now you will notice that all these letters are moving. So let me just quickly select all of them. Let's press P for position, and we don't want these animations. So I'm going to select these keyframes and let's move this further apart. So now you can see that we don't have any motion. Let's do the same thing with the rotation as well. So let's select these keyframes and let's move them ahead. So now we have these stationary characters. So let's focus on all of these. Let's focus on this ball animation. So let's go over here. So we have this letter, and let me just quickly place it where it touches the D, something like that. Now I want this to quickly move to E. So I'm going to just move like 4 to 5 frames and let's move it to E. After that, I want it to go back to A. Again, let's move couple of frames ahead. Let's make it to go to A. And after that, I want this to go to somewhere around here. And let's add a little bit of delay, then add a keyframe over here. And at last, somewhere around 20 frames, I want this to go back to its original position. Now we have this sort of animation. And our next step is to add some curves to this. So before we proceed, a lot of you watching right now have not subscribed to my channel, and I want you to please do that because I want to hit 100k subscribers this year on my channel. So make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon. So let's continue. So let's go over here. I'm going to select the pen tool. Now I want this curve to be very smooth. So in order to do that, let's go over here. So we have this. Now you can click and drag. So you can see that it will make this very smooth curve. You can select this and hold on the Alt key or Option key on Mac to do it something like this. So here you can see we have this curve. Now our ball will follow this curve path. We can maybe add a little bit of more curve, something like that. So once it is done, I want these paths to be pretty much straight. So we are going to just leave them as it is. And somewhere around here, I want this to be curved. So let's just click and drag so that we have this curve. We can probably select this and let's move this ball a little bit up, something like that. Now I want this path to be curved as well. So let's select and just make it like that. Now you can see that still it is not looking that good because we have to play around with the easing of the keyframes. So in order to do that, let's zoom in. Now let's go to this keyframe and let's select this, and I want this to be a easy ease keyframe. So right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, or you can press F9, something like this. Now we can probably select all these keyframes and let's easy ease them for now. Now let's go to the graph editor. So in order to do that, just click over here. Now in case your graph looks different, then make sure that you are in the edit speed graph, not the value graph. So once you are inside here, let's play around with these keyframes. So after our ball has gone back, I want it to quickly shoot back to the air. So in order to do that, I'm going to just select this and let's move it to this side. And let's select this keyframe and I'm going to just place it over here. So now you can see that it will go very fast in the air. Now in the air, I want this to have a little bit of stay. So for that, I'm going to just move these sliders, something like this. So here you can see we have this sort of motion. Now after this, I want it to hit the D very hard. So in order to do that, let's zoom in. I want this keyframe. So I'm going to just move it to all the way to the right side, something like that. Now after this, I want this to bounce back really quickly. So again, I'm going to just select this handle and I'm going to move it to the left side, something like that. Let's select this and let's move it to like that. So you can see that it goes back very quickly to E. And after that, I want it to do the same thing. So I'm going to just move this keyframe, something like that. So if I play back here, you can see we have this ball and you can see that we are getting a little bit of motion, something like this. Now again, let's go back to the graph and we are going to tweak this further. So let's go over here and I want this to be very harsh, something like this. And this we can just move it like that. Now the distance between these two keyframes is very small. So I'm going to just select all of them and let's move them a little bit, something like that. Now once it has reached over here, I want it to bounce back. So in order to do that, I'm going to just select the keyframes and let's make it a little bit fast, something like this. and somewhere around here we are going to make this slow. So I'm going to just select this keyframe and let's move it to this side, something like this. Now we can go to the next keyframe, and somewhere around here I want this to be a very harsh bounce. So let's select these keyframes and I'm going to just make them look something like that. Let's select this, and at last we want this smoothly, something like this. So now if I play back here, you can see we have this sort of motion. Again, we have to tweak a couple of these points. So let's zoom in again. So I want this keyframe and let's make this little bit less harsh, something like that. Also, let's make this little bit down, just like this. Now I don't like this direct fall, so I'm going to just select this keyframes, which is over here. Let's move it to this keyframe and let's place it over here. And let's select this one, something like that, and let's move it over here. So now we have a little bit of slant, something like this. Now we can do one more thing. In order to view this much better, we can apply an echo effect so that we have a trail behind our ball. So now to do that, let's search for echo and let's drag this onto our ball. Now let's play around with the echo. So I'm going to change the echo time to something like -0.001, and the number of echoes I'm going to just set this to something like 60. So now if I play back here, you can see we have this very nice trail behind our ball. Now if you want to increase its length, then you can play around with the number of echoes. Now if you want to decrease this, then you can just load this down. For this one, I'm going to set this to 60. Now we can zoom in and let's play around with these keyframes. So let's select the position. So in the beginning, we have this very nice motion, but somewhere around here, we have to tweak this. So I'm going to just select this and let's select the keyframe, which is this one. First, I'm going to change its position. So I'm going to just move it something like that. And let's change this to over here. And we can just move this further. Now let's play around with their position. So let's increase this gap a little bit. We can just move this closer, something like that. Now let's go to the graph editor. So after it touches A, I want this to bounce back quickly. So I'm going to just select this and let's make this all the way to this side, something like that. So here you can see we have this motion, and I want this motion to be fast as well. So for that, I'm going to just select these keyframes and let's move them closer, something like that. So you can see that we are getting some results. So just play around with the timing of these keyframes until you find something that looks good. So yeah, I think this is looking fine. And we have to just tweak this part over here. So once it bounces something like that, I want it to go back to its normal position, but I want to add a little bit of delay. So we can move the keyframes further apart, something like that. So we are done with the ball animation. Now let's start animating our text. Now you can see that the ball is hitting the R first. So I'm going to select the R and let's press U to get both the keyframes. Now let's zoom in, and as soon as it hits R, I want this to start animating. So I'm going to just add 2 keyframes for these, and let's move a couple of frames ahead. Now we can just move the R. So you can just use these, or you can just simply select it and just move it something like that. Now you can use the rotation as well. So let's rotate it a little bit, something like this. So you can see that it hits and the R moves. Now I'm going to select these keyframes, press F9. Let's go to the graph, and we are going to change all of these curves to something like this. So we're going to just do the same thing on all the characters. Now let's play around with the position of the impact. So you can see that it touches R over here, and as soon as it touches, it moves away. So we can probably select this and let's move this further. Let's move it a little bit more further. So let's place it over here. So here you can see we have this R animation. Let's do the same thing with D as well. So you can see that it touches D over here. Let's select the D, again press U, add keyframes. Let's move to somewhere around here, or you can hold on the shift key, press page down to move something like 10 frames. Let's move a little bit more. Now we can select this and let's move it over here. Now we can just add a little bit of rotation to this. Let's move it something like that. Now again we can select the keyframes, press F9. Just do the same thing with these keyframes and make all the curves to look something like this. Now if I play back, here you can see we have this animation. Let's quickly do this on the E as well. So it touches E over here. Let's select this, again press U, add keyframes, move like 10 to 12 frames ahead. Now just change its position, add little bit of rotation. Just select the keyframes, press F9 and just change the curve. Let's do the same thing for A as well. So after E, it reaches A somewhere over here. Let's select this, U. So there you go. Now we have added these animation to all the characters. Let me just quickly preview this. So here you can see we have this very nice animation. We can probably tweak this R more because it is moving a little bit ahead. So let's move it something like that. Perfect. So here you can see we have all the characters moving out. We can probably make a little bit more delay, something like that. So yeah, I think this is looking fine. Perfect. So once we have all the characters flying out, we want them get back to their original location. So for that, I'm going to select all of them. So let's focus on D first. Let's select this, press U. So you can see that we have this keyframe. So you can see that it will start moving to its original position. For that, I'm going to just delete these two keyframes which we have over here. And I'm going to just drag the keyframes which we created earlier. So you can see that we have it over here. And let's select this, press U. So before this keyframe, I want all the characters to go back. So let's select these and let's place it over here. Again, let's select them, press F9. Let's go to the graph. Let's zoom in. And for this one, I'm going to just select these keyframes and let's move it something like that. Let's select these and just change the graph to look like this. So here you can see that the D goes back to its original position. We can probably add a little bit of more delay, something like that. So let's do the same thing with all these letters. So let's select this R, press U. Again, let's delete these two keyframes. Let's select the end ones and let's move them closer. Let's select these, press F9. Let's go to the graph and just tweak the curves, something like that. Let's go out of this graph again. And we can add more delay, something like this. So just keep on doing this to all the keyframes. So here you can see we have done all the characters. Now you can see that at last our ball is moving a little bit further ahead. So we are going to just change its position. So let's just place it over here. Now I want to play with its size as well. So let's add a keyframe for scale and let's move it somewhere around here. So after this, we can just simply lower its scale down and just change its position. So let's add a keyframe. So let's place it somewhere around here. So I think this is looking fine. Now we have to play around with this curve as well so that it does a very nice bounce, something like that. Now you can probably go back. And in case you don't like this, then you can just make this smaller, something like this. You can probably make this closer and you can just make these keyframes closer as well. So here you can see we have this sort of animation. And let's move it closer. Let's make this smaller as well. There you go. Now you can see that we have all the keyframes and we have all the letters aligned perfectly. So this is how you can create these kind of animation. Now at last you can add a little bit of motion blur to this. So all you have to do is let's select everything, press U, just enable the motion blur on all these layers and make sure that the motion blur for this composition is enabled. So now if I play back, here you can see we have added this very nice motion blur and now all the characters are just moving fine. So this is how you can create these kind of animations, and if you have any queries or questions, then you can ask in the comments below. Also, the project files for this tutorial is available on Patreon, so if you're supporting me over there, then you can download it from there, and if you're not, then you might consider it, because you will get access to the tutorial project files and exclusive templates that are available only on Patreon. So with that being said, my name is Abhishek and I'll see you in the next one.